So a couple weeks ago, I got some things replaced on the front of this car that was what I could afford. I was like trying to figure out what this wobble and shake is. Mechanic told me what needed done without inspecting the vehicle, but it was in the vicinity of what I thought might be wrong, so I was like, okay, we'll see. Turns out not to be the case. So I said, any idea? Well, first he accused me first. I was just calling him up and said, hey, it's still doing the thing, though. He goes, well, I got the parts right here. I could prove it. I said, I didn't say that. I just want to know what it actually is. I'm trying to stop this thing. I had explained to them while I was sitting there about the fact that my car is limited to driving under 50 miles an hour, and that as such, it limits my ability to do longer deliveries because I have to find different routes if it's on the highway. I cannot go above 50 without the whole thing going, whoa. And he says, oh, yeah, it's the struts. Well, I just replaced my struts yesterday in my driveway. It still does it. Now, the control arm with the built-in ball joint and a tie rod end and the labor come to $350. The cost of just the struts at a regular retail price for both of them costs exactly $350. Which means that in 2 weeks I am now $700 into finding out what is making my car unsafe to drive on the highway. And now that the front end suspension is all good, because they assured me that the other side stuff had been changed, that the problem seems like it's probably in the back end, because that's what's floating and bumping around still. So I got to examine wheel bearings and shocks and trailing arms and lateral arms to figure out if there is, and rear stability anti-sway bar links. I've got to look at all this stuff. I've also got to make an adjustment on one of the tie rod ends, specifically the one that was put on. It has at least one too many turns toward the inside, which causes the front wheels to do this. So when I'm going around a corner, and if I'm hitting bumps, and there's any kind of a kaboom on the, front to back to front, hitting, going like that, squealing, little tire barks. It's going to get me a ticket. It's going to cost me money, right? So thankfully, I am able to get this car jacked up in my driveway after all. I was able to find a safe, secure location on the area of the jack points that was able to lift the car up. That was the reason I was taking it to a garage in the first place. The struts turned out to be easy as pie. And I believe that the rear shocks are going to be about the same. Getting the other parts is going to be an issue. The second $350 was actually borrowed from a friend. So I didn't have that money. I would have had to keep driving on these completely decrepit struts. So it was going to come to something like $2,000, a complete and total suspension overhaul to what it looks like get rid of this shake and wobble that really only started at the same time as the front sway bar being broken. The weird thing with the front sway bar being broken is I have never seen or heard of one crimping itself and snapping off at both ends at the same time. Must be magic, some kind of a miracle. I don't know. What I do know is that the car has now been signed over into my name because the person who was graciously allowing me to drive it for the last year and a half was having to pay $100 a month for SR22 high-risk insurance as an unlicensed person licensing a vehicle. Now, my insurance is like $26 a month. So I've actually increased my outgo slightly, but now it's mine. So I've got a little alignment adjustment to make tomorrow. I've got to look for bad wheel bearings, see what's up with these various bars, if anything is obviously bent. Once I get it up and get the wheels off to look at the wheel bearings, I can take a look at the sway bar links because they're kind of behind the wheel and it's a low car. But definitely looking at a few steps of having to do some stuff. And the problem with all of this is I don't have the fucking money for this. I haven't had the fucking money for this. I can barely get my bills paid. And right now, for the first time in 2 years, I'm having to take the cash that I bring home from my deliveries and put it into my bills instead of saving it up for car repairs or other things. Because in the process of the wintertime and not making enough money, catching people fucking me over, having to change where my hours are at here and there, losing money every time, and a constant stream of fucking car maladies that are just impeccable timing. I got $800 behind on my utility bill, and I had to put it onto a payment plan, which now adds $68 a month for the next 12 months. And if I don't make a payment in those 12 months on time, in order to get my power back on, I have to pay off the entire remaining balance of that $800 plus whatever month I miss. So it is all important that I keep my electric bill as low as possible. You can hear the heater going. I had to dry this robe off. You see my dryer's heater element died 3 years ago, and I've not been in a position since then to be able to replace it. So I fluff dry for like 2 or 3 hours to get my laundry dry, and then I hang it out, put a heater on it. Right when it was time to turn on the furnace, about a month ago, I was able to run my furnace for about a week before the gas ran out. Either I was lower than I thought or there was a leak. I don't know. So then I've been using these electric, which costs more monthly to use, to keep my house warm until such time as the weather is normal enough that it just doesn't get cold. The last couple of cool nights are, I think, maybe on us or past. And this heater ain't staying on for too much longer right now. Every light bulb in my house is an LED bulb. The furnace is set to 72. I'm sorry, the air is set to 72. The furnace was set to, I believe, 65 or 68 when it would run. And if it wasn't running because of the other heat in the house, it's because the too cold out for the furnace to actually work. But again, no gas. So also I'm using my microwave. Electrical costs more a month to use to heat my coffee water for the French press every morning instead of boiling it in the teapot. Add to all of this, dryer issue, running out of LP, the $300 a month electric bill during the winter months when it's cold. Thankfully, it wasn't as cold as it could have been, although if it had been colder and gotten more snow on the roof, I would have actually had a better thermal barrier and could have turned all the heaters down, saved a little money. But, whatever. So all of this, right? All of this going on all at the same time. And also, jealous people being haters. Anytime I do have a windfall of a day, no, dude, no, did I? How much money have I had to spend on shit that I shouldn't have had to do? How much shit's broke down that I just can't fix? And even a year and a half ago, I was trying to get my pickup truck to work, the only vehicle I had at the time. Still parked with the rotted brake lines from over a year ago because I cannot afford to even get brake lines for it to complete it because every line needs redone. And at the time, I would have been able to, if not for someone who was cheating me out of rightful runs that happened to be better tips than the ones he was up to get. And taking those instead of me being honest, taking whatever was there. So tonight, first part of the shift, the 4 o'clock driver was in. I come in at 5. 4 o'clock driver got 2 or 3 runs or whatever. I don't know what he got. I got 2 runs before he left. It was looking like, just like Monday, going to be a slow one, going to be a $16 day. Because I already had $16 up this one too. It was going to be $32 between 2 weekday nights. Typically, when shit's not weird, on an average, and I got records to show this in my notebook because I keep obsessive records with all of my runs, the amount given, the amount due, the tip, the percent, payment, address, all of it, dates, times. Well, I don't time them, but $32 is a typical Monday or Wednesday of average business. Shit's weird and slow, I don't know. Come to find out, on Monday, or no, it was Tuesday in the afternoon while I was in doing dishes, one of the managers, had discovered that the online order taking for deliveries had been off since Friday. So I didn't work all weekend because I said I'm not being scheduled with that dude managing, right? Whole thing I've been over, the video that got privated, and a prior video about haters. But they were still shut off. The other drivers also didn't get what they were supposed to get. What the fuck gives, dude? What is that about? Well, okay, they had a big old 50 pizza catering order that the drivers weren't going to be able to take. The owner was going to take it himself up to Policeman's Ball at some venue just outside of town. And they wanted to shut down all order taking while those pizzas were going through for this catering order. Well, the drivers were like, yeah, no, you need to be taking delivery orders too. I'm not here for this. And I don't get to take this. Because that's the thing. I mean, really, honestly, to be fair, if you're going to shut out the delivery drivers from being able to have deliveries during a time with some catering order that they're not going to take, all the drivers that don't get to take orders should probably get 10% of the cost of that catering order, even if there was no tip. If you're going to be cutting people on their ability to make money, you need to compensate, right? But anyways, they shut off all of it, and then delivery was turned back on online, so that if anything comes through that way, they make a gap, they run it through. And talking to the assistant of the store, I was like, yeah, that's a no-brainer. You should be able to make room for that stuff, whatever. They wanted to shut it down, have it be perfect, which I done. Should not be so eager to, support a group of people that, on an order, would arrest you or shoot you. So, after that, though, somehow, when the carryouts got turned back on, the deliveries got turned off. So Saturday, I had a total of 4 runs, 2 of which were stiffs, 0 online delivery orders. Which, by the way, online delivery orders are the only way, well, I guess slice orders can come through with the pre-tip on it. You could tip in advance online. That was the whole thing that I had of knowing that somebody was getting a $7 tip handed to them because the run that was supposed to be mine went to them instead, and I took the stiff or the little bullshit one. Friday after Friday after Friday. Come to find out on this particular Friday, moving through Sunday, had just been no online orders whatsoever for delivery. Spent 2 hours in the afternoon on Saturday with nothing. And I can't go with deadness because I'm the only driver until the next night shift, right? And so I said something to the guy that was filling in the Sunday night that's normally my close. And I said, so I heard this thing about the online orders. Did so-and-so tell you about that? Yeah, I heard about that. And I said, so how was your Sunday? He goes, could have had more runs. So it's not just fucking me at this point. It's fucking other people too, whatever it is. Whether it's a ghost or some kind of weird spiritual malady that jumps person to person, Azazel style, I don't fucking know. Because if it ain't that, it's either incompetence, pure blind self-centered greed, or malice, or some combination. But it just keeps happening. After time, after time, after time, after time, after time. On top of the fact that I'm probably not the only person in financial dire straits. But like I said, I got all these problems I got to fix on this car just to be able to keep doing my job. Why don't you get another job? People keep saying this. Oh, you try and get other work? Yeah, dude. Every place I've ever applied at in probably the last 4 years that wasn't the ones I've actually worked at have been like, yes, we're hiring. We're just not hiring you. And nowadays, they are moving into a modern social credit score, ESG and all that stuff. People can look my name up and be like, oh, he's like shadow banned before he deleted his accounts on stuff. And wrong thing, not hiring. Well, guess what, motherfuckers? I've been right. I'm still being right. Right about a ton of stuff. Correctamundo, Roberto. That's me. Been right. But I'm going to get punished for being right. See, the people that take that mark of the beast, they may participate in the economy. Freely trade. Goods, services, currency. But you have to be able to make that currency. That's the real thing. You can go to the store and you can buy or sell or whatever, however you do it, But if you can't make the money, And I've been destitute for 4.5 years now. Destitute. I'm sorry, 4 years, not 4.5. Destitute. As in, the little wad of cash on hand is literally the only money I have to my name. No, I understand there is other wealth that I possess. I have a collection of culture in my home. I have my home. I have my homestead. But it cost me both of my parents. The only reason I own it outright is because my parents, having made mortgages and some decisions to improve the house and double mortgage, then used wise investment strategy to pay down the mortgages to where my dad's life insurance paid out chunks to each of us, and my chunk was just enough to pay off the mortgage and buy that truck, which was a $4,000 purchase. But I paid off the $45,000 that this place still had on it. I can't at this point take out credit. I might be able to put a vehicle on for collateral. The interest rates are going to be insane, and the payment amounts are going to be beyond what I am likely to make. So, that's the first half of it, right? That's the, for context, mountain, Mons Olympus on Mars, mountain of shit I've got on my mind and things that are just on back burner until I magically get all the money, which I won't. So at the start of my shift today, for the first bit of it, the first half of the shift until the first driver went home, that was it. And I was like, oh boy, another $16 day. Whoop-de-fucking-do, right? And we got a corporate inspection coming and everybody's cleaning, and I did some cleaning too. And then I decided to saunter on into the arcade and play the video game. Now, I went in, I plunked the quarters, took a breath, played the thing. 331,200 points, about 15,000 shy of my personal best. 1 credit challenge. Slack playthrough. Only 50 cents I had in quarters. But during that run, 2 phone calls came in while I was playing. Because quite often when the phones are dead and then I go in and start playing, it just seems to ring. It's literal coincidence. But it happens often. Specifically, if I'm able to have the proper focus and intention going into the game, or if I'm able to transcend physicality while playing it. Typically, those are the times when the phone rings. And the phone rang twice. And like I said, I'm just a few mistakes shy of beating my PB. Both of them were carryouts, mind you, but there's always that 50-50 that the call that comes in could be a delivery. And then an online order came in. And 10 minutes later, the phone rang twice. And all of a sudden, I've got 3 more runs on deck. About 10-15 minutes after the last guy left is when this all come together. And because of the timing of it and the time of the night, I just took them all together, even though one of them was down far south end of town, and the others were the very far north end of town, and then beyond, nearly out to the distance to my house. Had to ask the manager to explain to the new girl about making sure to put on the long distance charges, since I don't get paid them if they're not added on there. So technically, my night would have been $1.50 more. And I know it seems like, oh, it's $1.50, but these things add up. And like I said, I'm dumping $700 into a car and it still ain't running right. It still ain't driving right. I've got all these other things that I've been waiting to have the money, the ability to fix and replace, and I can't. And Jesus, fuck, I don't even know about the $1,000 or more it's going to cost for LP to fill my tank up. And then I'm going to have to make payments on that. Or they'll repossess my tank. Which is why I get so frustrated when somebody disapproves of witnessing me have a windfall day. That I shouldn't get to earn the money that I need. And that as a consequence, oftentimes it's the Wednesday night that is the banger before a Friday night that I have to deliver for the next day that I deliver. And on that night is the night where the hater is the manager. Except that this time I've let other management know that this setup is occurring. This appears to be some sort of test. And that because I had a banger after all, like I said at the start, I thought I was going to make 1 day's worth of money over the course of 2 days for an average slow time. The other thing was, on Monday, the 4 o'clock driver called and asked me if I'd like to cover both, and I said, sure thing. So those 3 runs were literally the only 3 deliveries. The only 3 deliveries that night. If there had been 2 drivers, I would have taken 1 run because of the timing. So Wednesday I had a banger. Not the best banger, mind you, but I went from having $16 with what would have been my take-home, 2 runs, which is 2 $4 delivery charges, a $5 and a $3 for tips, to having $66, I believe. Would have been $67.53 instead of $60.03 or $66.03 or whatever. But point is, I went from 16 to 60 in a matter of an hour. Took an enormous amount of mileage distance on these runs without the extra, and it's just like, man, I don't want to have to keep eating extra gas money too. This shit has to be corrected. Now in this case it was a new girl, and I was very calm about it. I said, hey, so, and I said something to the girl that was showing her how to do stuff. I said, were you helping her fill this out? This says add $1.50 and it's not on there. Oh, well, it's cash week. And I said, no, if they've been told a price, we can't change that. Just saying, so in the future, then they explain, yeah, if it says this and it's a 5-digit number, put that on there. Just if they ask what about, just don't even say nothing. Just add it on with it. It's a delivery charge. And then that's the other thing, is if people think that, oh, you get the solid chunk of money for the delivery fee, that should be enough. No. See, here's what it is. I make minimum wage per hour. The paychecks from that, between the minimum wage per hour and a bit more for the 2 shifts a week that I do on dishes, for a grand total of 7 hours between the 2 shifts, at a slightly higher pay rate, is generally enough to pay my bills, given that I have an extreme level of conservatism when it comes to my budget. My refrigerator also doesn't run because it doesn't work. Since a power problem years ago that I've just not been able to do anything about and decided not to replace it, I just cleaned it out and left it off because it's $100 less a month on my electric bill. It's still $300 a month in the winter, but it is overall $100 less a month on my electric bill. I spend $20 on 2 cartons worth of tobacco, and I am now at a point for going to work that, if at all possible, I'm bringing that and rolling my own cigarettes instead of paying almost $10 a pack. It's like $8.50 or something for the Nat Shermans, which are literally the same tobacco but pre-rolled and packed with freaking whatever that fire safe stuff on the outside of them. I already have brought my budget down to a bare minimum. And what it comes to is I need to make about $1,400 or $1,500 a month between my hourly, my tips, and my deliveries. This gets me the ability to pay my bills, to keep the cats fed, to keep stocking some food up for myself, and to start saving up for potential inevitable vehicle issues or other things. And any other money that I can make beyond that would literally just be set into a jar to stack up until something else that I need to do, like fixing my dryer, getting gas for my LP tank, fixing my truck, fixing this, anything, right? But I can't have that. I don't get that because nobody seems to think that I deserve that, or they would not interfere, right? So tonight, the second of the 3, the first one had a modest tip, but it was decent. It was a good percentage. The second one, which was at the north edge of town, and is usually a decent tip. The guy awkwardly hands me a little squishy folded up bill and signs for the thing, and I thank him and whatever, and I'm looking at the bill and the coloring of the paper. I'm like, that could be a 5. almost looks like the color of a 20. And I get to my car, and I almost cried because it was a 20. The guy tipped me $20. That was a 50% tip on his order. And this was inside of it. God bless you on your journey. And so when I was pulling out, I rolled my window down and shouted, "Thank you so much. May you be blessed as well." And then I continued on outward of town, where I had to go very slow on the highway, but thankfully there was no major crazy traffic. I was able to get my 50-mile-an-hour putt-putt the same way off of the road. I have to take as a very long out of the way, also extra miles, extra gas, right? Because I can't go 50 to get to a farther out spot on the highway that is just a little half mile to my turnoff. Otherwise, if there's any traffic behind me on the highway going out of town, I have to get off the highway because they will not want to go 50 miles an hour. And if they try and goose me ahead by getting up on my butt, I'll start making it go, and they'll realize I can't. And the more times I do that to my car, the more shit breaks, right? So I don't want to keep doing that. And I get out to the one that's way out, almost the same distance as this place, on a different road. And I apologize for how long it took. I say, "I'm sorry, yours came in," and then we had two others come in, and the one that came out very first the first one came out, and then this one and yours, and I said, there was a nice little boop, boop, boop to go across, but I said, yours unfortunately was the third to come out, so it was the third to get, plus it's the farthest. The other one was on the far, far south of town, so I've been on a run. And she goes, that's fine, thank you. Counting out her tip, and I noticed she's a shitload of money, but I'm not like staring at it. I'm just kind of like, also her cleavage is showing. I'm not trying to totally stare at the boobs, but I kind of just admiring the sky and, looking at her like I do. I have this whole not watching the tip part thing that I do as part of the routine. If you're like, woo, they notice. So like the guy handed me the thing, and I'm like, okay, it's a bill, cool. And I don't even try and grab it from their hand. I wait for them to hand it to me. And here, would you sign that? Cool. If they hand it to me, they might want to wait. But I'm not going to be like, that's a mine. I don't do that. I never mention gratuity unless it's a pre-tip. And I say, thank you for the gratuity. I already got it. Please make sure you zero that other line. Protects yourself and me from fraud. And so the third delivery, the lady out in the boonies here, was also a 50%. So I made $38 in tips on those 3 runs. And I got back to the store. I told the manager, I was like, probably about 8:30 I'll be back. We'll see. It was about 8:35 come rolling in. And I go to do the thing, take it up, whatever. And I show her the God bless you note. And I was like, this is insane. And the one after that was 50%. All I can say is praise, praise, praise. Praise be to God. Because this is a good blessing. I've needed this, right? But the hater, always keeping himself around and within earshot, caught on. And I saw the darkness. I saw the jealousy. And he sneaks off to do a bathroom or something. And I go to the manager and I said, I'm off tomorrow. I got dishes in the morning on Friday. Friday night I got to work under him. So the next time I deliver is going to be the next time after me having this banger. And I said, you will recall that is the reason why I believe things were happening the way they were, that I needed to be taken off of that schedule. She goes, I said, so I will let you know Saturday morning how Friday night goes, because this is setting up for him to be pissed at me for making too much money. Try and punish me, learn me a lesson, and hose me, just to make himself feel better about not being the one making the money. Well, other people need to make... Go back to the beginning of this video. Find out everything I need. Figure out how much all that shit costs. That for 4 years now, I have been continually falling behind on by scrabbling to just make the bills. Because people are hiring, but they are not hiring me. And the few places that do, the business is slow. Or I have to put up with an owner of a company at the previous delivery joint that I worked for, having that batshit crazy, let's not prosecute criminals mentality that includes let's not fire people for fucking other people over. And if I had stayed at that place after having a heart palpitation before deciding to walk out, I would have just had a heart attack at some point. I'd probably be dead, or hospitalized with $50,000 worth of debt that I would never intend to pay back. So instead I chose peace and I walked away into half of what I was making, if I'm lucky. And at that half of what I'm making, if I'm lucky, I keep having people seem to think that anytime I have a good day, it is unacceptable. On top of the issues with whether or not an auto mechanic is being honest, because we all know there's no such thing as an honest mechanic, except for ones who are educated in mechanic stuff and then don't do that for their job. Those are the honest mechanics. The guy I worked with at the other pizza spot that went to college and got a degree in automotive, that's an honest mechanic. He'll tell you what's wrong, maybe what you need to do, but he's not going to offer to do it for you. So at the time that I signed over the vehicle to myself, or had it signed to myself, I should say, a conversation was had about the situation, the status, the position in my life, something that was not understood about the nature of how I must go about my time. Well, are you sure that those are the blessings and that kind of thing? And yeah, man, I've been doing this for a while. I'm very well aware of how it is supposed to be, and I'm very well aware that anyone who is subverting or opposing direct will of God kind of shit is basically not just committing sin, but acting in evil. This includes the people that have been being nice to her, who had let me drive her car, but were obviously bilking the both of us out of as much money as possible. Evil gets punished. Some of it gets punished after life. Some of it gets punished in this life. And as I am attempting to do things that are good in this life, I should think that the evil should be punished in this life as well, thus clearing my path from being beset on all sides by the iniquities of the weak and the tyranny of evil douchebags. That's all I got.